Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Behind the Music with Stairway Music. I'm your host Sarah Knop, and today I'm joined by Joel Dowling. Welcome, Joel.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. Now Joel, you have grown up at Stairway Church, but most recently you've taken on the role of Music and Innovation Pastor.
Yes, I have.
It's really exciting.
Very exciting.
Now over the time that you've been at Stairway Church, you've been instrumental in really shaping the sound of Stairway music, particularly through your music direction, songwriting and also music production. So just wondering if you can tell us a little bit about your background and your training and how you came to have this new role.
Absolutely. I've been in Stairway Church for over 20 years now, which is a long time, but I would not be anywhere else. I love this place. And so within those 20 years, I have played music the entire time. And so probably around 10, 12 years ago, I really started to put my hand towards production. And so what that meant for me was really starting to explore what and how sound can make us feel and how sound can cultivate different aspects of our worship. And so trialing a whole bunch of different things, trying different instruments and different textures. And so it's really been a joy over the last 20 years to pursue that and to help the team pursue that. And now moving into coming on staff, it just means that I can now cultivate that even more. So it's been a great time, but I'm really looking forward to this year.
So Joel, today you're going to talk to us about how a different church group or church band can come up with their own unique sonic palette.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we get started, can you tell us, what does the term sonic palette mean?
Yeah, so the term sonic palette for me, the way that I picture it is almost the colour palette that an artist would use when they sit down to paint. And so when I think about music and when I'm creating music, I very much think in colours. And so I will grab colours that have different emotions. And so I think for churches trying to understand and starting to move towards what their sonic palette, what their sonic signature would be, it's very much a trial and error, a getting together, worshipping together, and almost taking things to the very extreme limits and starting to pull back. I'm very much an advocate of being as creative as possible, because you don't know what the team that you're a part of has within them. And so if you can take that to the absolute boundary and then almost take it too far and then start to pull it back, I feel like you have a better representation of the whole team.
Fantastic. So Joel, you mentioned earlier that you've been at Stairway Church for about 20 years,
Yep.
and the church itself has been around for almost 30 years. So over that time, our sound has changed significantly,
Yeah, totally.
even though the reason why we worship hasn't changed. So can you share with us some of your observations about how the sound of Stairway has changed over the last 10 years or so?
Yeah, so our sound has changed heaps over the last 10 years. Every project that we have done has, again, a completely different sonic palette, a sonic imprint, and that was very, very intentional by myself and by the worship leaders and worship pastors. And so with every project that we did, we were asking the question, what is the sound of this album? And so when I think back to an album like Send Light that we did in 2014, that was a record that was very raw and very experimental in its own ways. We used the choir in some really interesting ways. It was a real prophetic, declarative kind of album in my mind when I think back to it. And so when that is the image of a record, and when that is the image of the church at the time, you need to make sure that you're using sounds and using expressions that matches that. And so, the like real roaring guitars, big live drums that almost portray what we're trying to say. I'm a big believer in trying to match what the song is saying lyrically with the musical aspect of it. And when you can get them both to, in essence, be in harmony, you get a real direct double power of the same image. And so then when you go from, we go from Send Light to the last record that we did, Symphony, it was a completely different process because the church was at a different stage. Our team was at a different stage. We were writing different songs. And so the process for that looked very different. We had a 10-day, almost like a retreat where a term that I've used when I start production is breaking the back of a song. And so what that means for me is what's the identity of this song from a production wise? Does it have a big choir influence? Is it gospel influence? Is it rock influence? Is it this or that? And so we're trying all of these different things and in essence just throwing paint at the wall and just seeing what is going to work. Yeah. And then when you stand back, you go, okay, this is a bit of a mess, but we can actually start to discover what this thing actually is. And so, we've got 2 great albums there that were done in completely different ways and have 2 completely different feelings. And I think that as the church, that we should be the ones that are pioneering the best art in the world. It's, you go back to, Michelangelo and a lot of these guys, it's like the best art was in the church. Yeah. And I'm a big believer that we have the best art here. And so we should be continuing to pursue that.
Yeah, fantastic. At Stairway Church, we have really developed a culture of growing and adapting around the prophetic words that have been given to us as a church, and that applies to our music as well as lots of other areas of the church. Can you tell us a bit about how those prophetic words have influenced our sound at Stairway?
So I feel like our church is fueled by prophetic words. We are all very firm believers that as we receive a prophetic word of the house, that is the next door for us to start to walk towards. I remember Graham Cook coming probably 8 years ago now, and he spoke a word over our church about walking off our map. And so a way that I interpreted that for myself and for the worship team was there is something for us to start to pursue sonically and start to really push some of the boundaries. And what would it look like musically to walk off your map? What would it look like to start to rethink your instrument, start to rethink how we listen to other people playing? And so, as we moved on, we started working on Send Light. And that was very much an album that was birthed from that idea of walking off our map. And even listening to it today, I'm like, it feels like that. It feels like there were some big risks that we took. Yeah. And so I feel like we every prophetic word that we get is a new opportunity for us to start to outwork that musically.
So Joel, thank you so much for your time today. Before we go, I'm just wondering if you have one piece of advice that you'd give to any musicians or songwriters who are watching today and seeking to really get into the process of creating their own unique sound for their house.
Totally. So one piece of advice that I think about a lot for myself is that I'm always trying to get out of my comfort zone. I'm very aware that I can get into ruts, whether or not it's creatively, whether or not I'm writing a song or I'm working with an artist. And so it's something that I've really worked on over the years, whenever I start to feel too comfortable, I just change it up completely. So let's say, for instance, you may have played acoustic guitar for 15 years and you know that you write on the acoustic guitar and that's how you've always done it, and you get a great result. I would really recommend just being crazy, putting the acoustic aside and getting on a piano. And you may not play piano, it actually doesn't matter. But what will happen is that when you get on an instrument that you're not comfortable with, you will start to go down different creative paths that you wouldn't have gone down with an instrument that you're comfortable with. And so that could be a different instrument. It could be drums, it could be piano, it could even be on your phone with GarageBand or on your laptop with GarageBand. And I cannot express enough how many times for me I have found something that I was looking for musically in a sound that I was not expecting. And so I know that it can be pretty nerve-wracking and we're moving away from this comfortability aspect, but I would really recommend trying it. I think you will all be surprised at what you come out with.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Joel, and thank you to everyone for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of Behind the Music.